Good evening, members, and welcome to tonight's Scrutiny Committee for Place and Environment. Welcome to members, other councillors who are not part of this committee, and to our council leader. Item 1, to ratify the appointment of chairman and vice chairman as agreed at annual council on 14th of May 2025. I'll remain chairman and Councillor Bergreen as vice chairman. Thank you very much. Item 2, to note substitutes in accordance with Committee Procedure Rule 8. We have Councillor Wood substituting for Councillor Rees and Councillor Whitaker substituting for Councillor Zeidler. Item 3, to receive apologies for absence, and accordingly we have apologies from Councillor Rees and Councillor Zeidler. And item 4, to receive declarations of interest from members in respect of any matter on the agenda. Do we have any conflicts of interest? Please indicate through your microphones.
Item 7, it's because of the Dolphin Leisure Centre. I am a member of that as well. So just
thank you for letting us know, and I'm sure lots of us have used our facilities across the district, but so that's understood. Thank you. Item 5, can we confirm through just general affirmation the minutes of the previous scrutiny committee on the 2nd of April? Okay, they are agreed. Item 6, to consider any items that the chairman agrees to take as urgent business. I have none. So we can go on to our first substantive item on the agenda this evening, the annual update for leisure services. And in the first instance, I know we've got a few councillor officers here this evening. Welcome, and but I'm going to invite Simon Hughes to introduce the report and to take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. This annual update sets out our approach to leisure services, and it covers financial stewardship, health and wellbeing, partnership, and the strategic use of all of our leisure assets, not solely the leisure centres, but all of the open green spaces, pitches and so on that we have. This is to ensure that the council's leisure services remain well used by our clubs, communities and residents, and they are resilient and accessible in the long term. The report highlights our partnership model, so working with sports governing bodies, community sports associations, and a service that's delivered through our Places Leisure for indoor centres and Glendale for outdoor spaces, and managed through our contract management team. So the report also summarises community benefits as demonstrated through the 1.8 million annual visits to our leisure centres and a growing exercise referral programme integrated with our wellbeing team. It's important that we do work across the teams within the council, and that's covered in paragraphs 8 and 21. Paragraphs 28, 29, 39 identify the investment that we're making within our leisure services and including the investment that Places Leisure makes. So it covers capital improvements alongside nearly 6 million in planned life cycle investment, which is critical, as you'll know, for our leisure centres. And that's about keeping our facilities modern and equipped and changing according to the needs of residents and local communities, but also tackling things like demographic change, ageing population and so on. Key achievements this year include continuing financial recovery of our leisure centres post-COVID. It's important to say that people's leisure activities have shifted since COVID, and what they demand and what they need has changed, as has the market within leisure services. And also we've had a focus with Places Leisure on social values. That's the social value delivered through our leisure centres, and that's something that members may want to ask further questions about. Sustainability is deeply embedded within all of our leisure services, and recent investments in pool covers, solar PV have already cut costs and avoided around 70 tonnes of CO2. And that is because our leisure services, not just the centres but also the playing pitches, are within our sustainable economic strategy and how we deliver some of the goals within that. Paragraphs 9 and 37 report on the completion of the ARC Centre for Outdoor Sports, which is a major achievement for this council. It's our largest recent investment in leisure facilities. And then we also referred to climate change and how that is presenting an increasingly significant challenge for the management and sustainability of our outdoor sports facilities. It won't have escaped you, not least in coming here today, over the rising winter rainfall and more frequent summer droughts, and they're driving the need for adaptive maintenance strategies for our sports pitches, and that's so we can maintain year-round pitch availability and protect those particular community assets and give their community access to sports. Just to give you one bit of data, and this is a national bit of data, but it also affects us, that around 1/3 of grassroots pitches are losing around 6 weeks to 2 months of the year from flooding or extreme weather. The extreme weather includes drought, and that creates pitch hardness and therefore safety concerns. And we've been working with the government bodies to look at how we can address that. So, Chairman, the report contains 3 main recommendations for the committee's consideration in paragraph 2. The first covers the climate adoption strategy for outdoor leisure and in partnership with Glendale, and that's to work that up with Glendale as part of our service planning for the coming year. That we work with Places Leisure to produce a detailed asset management plan for the remainder of the contract of our leisure centres, and that we work with Places Leisure and Glendale to establish a pathway for achieving further net zero gains according to our sustainable economic strategy. Thank you, Chairman, and the team and I are happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Chairman. Probably a silly question, but I'll ask it just to clarify things. So this plan doesn't look at removing any facilities, for example, the closure of the pool facilities due to net zero targets as they're deemed to be excessively demanding heat energy or creating excessive levels of CO2. That's the first thing. It's obvious in the report that there have been improvements made, but I just want to clarify that thing because they are very important community assets, I think we all agree. And then secondly, in terms of sports pitches, at East Court, Mid Sussex's football pitches, what's the status there? Because with the contract turnover between ID Verdi and the current provider, Glencore, there was a problem last year in terms of maintenance. And I had contacted officers last year, and I know there was a plan to bring them back into use and improve the drainage situation and get them back into use so teams in East Grinstead didn't have to go to Crawley Down or other villages. So my 2 questions, please.
Okay, I'm going to go to Simon Hughes in the first instance.
Thank you, Chairman. So on the first one, what we're doing is working with Places Leisure so we can look at the asset management of our leisure centres. And as you'll note in the report, we've talked about how they've been insulating pools to reduce the cost of maintaining their heat. So that's the sort of thing we'll be looking at. As you'll know from the report, Places Leisure also invest in those assets as part of the contract and a part of their lease on those properties. And there are also grants available that they've been bidding for. So when we look at the asset management plans, those leisure centres that could cover up to 2035, that's the sort of thing we'd include, is what's the impact on net zero. I think it's also safe to say that our leisure centres were designed at a time when that wasn't the first concern of the communities and people. So we're to some degree fighting a battle with, alongside Places Leisure to address those issues and retrofit what we can. And I'll pass over to my colleague to cover the question about East Court.
Thank you. So I think picking up on your first point, the transition between ID Verdi and Glendale, specifically in relation to the pitches at East Court. So the pitches have been back in action for formal use over the last season. That was previously not able to happen. So we had around about 5 to 6 years of informal use only. So we have brought those back into use. That's completely in line with our contractual expectations of Glendale. They work with the clubs to improve those conditions over time. So we're definitely on a journey with that. So I wouldn't say that we're where we want to be right now, but definitely over the forthcoming seasons, we hope to make some of those improvements. So I think we're in a better place than we were, but there's still more work to be done in terms of engaging with the clubs and making some of those improvements.
One last question, Joe, if that's possible. Do we have any idea of footfall or usage, utilisation rates? Are they going up? Because obviously it can generate income, which helps in terms of the council's revenues.
So I think probably following a period of informal use, I think it's difficult to say exactly if the pitches in East Court have increased in usage, but we've got more data available to us via the online booking process. So that is something that we'll be able to see over time. But what I would say is that yes, we've got formal bookings. Yes, that means that we've got more formal use, but it's impossible to say whether that's improved from previous seasons.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I have several questions, but if I can start with two of them. And can I also please ask the respondents to speak up a bit loudly so I can hear? Thank you very much. My first one, of course, refers to the very first item on our programme, which talks about Council's long-term leisure strategy. Well, we all know in 2009, the last leisure strategy included not just sports, but arts and culture. So my question is, where does this fall into any responsibility of our council now? Is it just sort of forgotten or what? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. So, yeah, the Mid-Sussex Leisure and Culture Strategy was adopted in 2009, as Councillor Edwards says, and that ran until 2020, and did include not only sports and physical activity, but also arts and culture. Since then, obviously, we've carried out a number of studies to support our sort of strategic direction around leisure, specifically the play and pitch study and the play and green spaces study. And they supported the development of the Green Spaces strategic vision that came to this committee a couple of years ago, which was specifically about outdoor sports provision. And then obviously the report in front of committee today sets out the work that's underway to develop a strategic direction on our leisure provision more generally. There is no separate strategy for arts and culture, but obviously significant support is provided through the Council's grants programme to a range of arts and cultural activities within the community, many of which use the Council's facilities. For example, the play days on tour, urban events like the Skate Fest and so on. So that's the way in which we support arts and culture in the community now. There is no strategy, but we're focusing our efforts through the community grants programme.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My second question of several is item number 10. I believe about a year or so ago, this committee were offered that we would have a assessment of playgrounds, you know, and I'm particularly interested in about the categories of the playgrounds and whether or not we're still pursuing the sort of, in a new estate, the very small ones for up to 5 years old, or the what's called the leaps. And I was quite interested, and I wondered if that's an ongoing assessment or... Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I think that might be something that's really interesting in the work programme, but I think I will pass that to Robert again in the first instance.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, indeed. That study was part of that wider work programme around the Green Spaces strategic vision. So within that was obviously the master planning work and so on that we're also undertaking. And that piece of work has commenced. It hasn't yet concluded. And is a constantly evolving piece of work because of the number of sites we have and because of the fact that we're constantly having to think about the age of those assets, the extent to which we can afford to keep them maintained and upgraded and so on. So it's an evolving piece of work, but it will come out to the public in the not too distant future in terms of some form of consultation on those play sites. Just to confirm on that question around leaps. Leaps are local equipped areas for play. They're not specifically targeted at a particular age range. It's just the fact that they are equipped. There are other sites called laps. These are planning terms, which are just local areas for play, which can just be a fenced area with no equipment in it whatsoever. So it's just a sort of categorisation.
Thank you. So,
Vision and review of how that is going, that's come through this committee, so there will be opportunity.
so just one further question. How often are these, especially these leaps, investigated and maintained if there's anything failing within them? Thank you.
So Glendale, through the Green Spaces contract, inspect all of our sites for health and safety and maintenance on a monthly basis, and make recommendations around particular priority maintenance issues. And then we have an annual inspection, which is carried out in more detail, which informs our investment programme.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Feel free to come back later.
Thank you.
Councillor Bates.
Following on from actually the last question, Mr. Chairman, in terms of Anstey Staplefield seem to be proposing to build a play area or improve what they've got. Are they doing off their own back, and would it involve the district council in the type of equipment? I was curious really, and presumably they're going to fund it within their own budget. But are the district aware, or do they need to be involved with it?
Thank you, Councillor Bates. We'll pass that on to Robert Harris.
Yeah, Chairman. So basically, we as a council maintain 120 play areas across the district. There are a significant number of other play areas that are maintained either by town and parish councils or indeed looked after within management companies within developments. And the Anstey and Staplefield site is one of those that's looked after, I believe, by the parish council.
Yeah.
And therefore, it's for them to inspect it, maintain it, to fund any improvements, and they will do that independently of us. Sometimes they might seek our advice and guidance, because obviously we're geared up to look after and maintain a significant number of play areas, so we have some expertise that perhaps they might find useful. But by and large, it's something that they will carry out completely independently of us.
Yeah, I think the discussion on Anstey, it seemed that they were trying to get the district involved, just generally because of the cost of having to look at the play area. So anyway, thanks for that. What I was going to ask was, first of all, there's a lot of interest in recent times on the playing of paddle or pickle. I just wondered if Mid Sussex were, providing, or there's enough provision for this particular sport. That's one. And in terms of, I live in Hayward Heath and I use the Dolphin. I've asked about the car parking being maybe made a bit better, but also improving the size of the spacing, because people are having problems with big cars parking in standard car parking. So I've asked that question in the past, and also the future of investments on item 27. Does it have any implications on the term of the contract that the operator has at the moment? I think they've only got 5 years left. So what will happen in 5 years, with particularly the Dolphin? What will happen there? And I presume we might be debating the topic as well, so I've got a few other points.
I'll pick up the last point, then we'll go to Rob.
Okay, we'll pick up the last point first, so I'll go with Simon.
Thank you. So with the contract, as you set out in the report, with all contracts there's an opportunity for a contract extension, but that is typically in a negotiation with in this instance, Places Leisure. So that's work that we will be undertaking. In many contracts, not solely this one, that's also then linked to things like investment. What investment will the council make? What investment will Places Leisure make? So I wouldn't want to prejudice that contract negotiation, but I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, I seem to have a constituent that seems to know more than me, and probably most of the council wasn't even officers, but that's why I've asked that question. But anyway, that one, in terms of, in terms of the improvement of the car park, it would be desirable. And actually linked to that would be Glendale. They sent out a leaflet asking for volunteers. Of course, they got the wrong email address, so hardly anybody's taken it up. I found out about when it was. I have joined one of their sessions, but I thought if it could be reprinted and put down at the Dolphin and other centres in the district, we could encourage people to maybe join in with that, if it's possible. At the moment, we're doing Clare Park and the Beechhurst and down at the Clare Park at the moment. But I was sort of thinking more outside of the council and not on the council's estate. But anyway, that's what's happened. But if you could look into maybe getting that leaflet corrected and recirculated and try to get more people to volunteer to do some of this work would be helpful.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bates. We'll do that. I'll just pass to Rob, who can pick up the paddle and pickleball question that you asked earlier.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Yeah, so paddle obviously is something that's been growing over a number of years, and in response to that, probably 5 or 6 years ago now, we as a council provided a paddle court at the Triangle using Section 106 funding. And that's proved incredibly popular, and we have explored at various times the options around expanding that offer. In the meantime, what has happened is that other people have also obviously noticed that paddle is a growth sport, and a number of other paddle courts have cropped up around the district, including at Whiteman's Green in Cookfield and off the A23, there's some indoor courts, and obviously in East Grinstead too. So I think we're watching at the moment to ensure that there isn't a saturation in the market really before we think about whether there is actually any wisdom in providing any further courts. Pickle is a newer thing that we're still trying to understand in terms of what provision might look like and how we might respond to that need. But certainly there are conversations ongoing at the moment about how we might do that.
Okay.
Can I just follow up, because I was going to ask the same questions on pickle and paddle. From a paddle perspective, just so you know, the 4 courts in East Grinstead are completely booked from morning to night, £60 an hour. And they're, I think, already considering further courts. I mean, to me, it would be a no-brainer to invest in a second paddle court at the Triangle. And I know we've had that conversation over a number of years, and I still don't quite know why that wasn't able to come forward. But and from a pickleball perspective, my fear with these things is that if we're not looking forward and wondering how to cope, how we actually cope with them, that they just go private. And so pickleball, again, is growing hugely. And I think more and more is going to the sports clubs because there's so much pressure on the court space in our own centres because they're used for badminton and gym work and loads of things. And so I think places there should be really well advised to make sure we've got a proper strategy for those fast developing sports going forward. Okay, sorry, Councillor Whittaker.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to point of procedure, really, referring to the last meeting of this Scrutiny Committee, ironically, where I was substituting again. But it was on the 2nd of April, and Glendale, were a significant contributor to that. We had an extensive report from the officers. And then I noticed that the portfolio holder, Councillor Hobbs, wasn't in attendance, and he's not in attendance tonight. So is that just by holiday coincidence? That's my first point. Okay, so he's missed 2 scrutiny committees on the trot. I know we've got the leader, but he's very...
I think you're correct, Councillor.
Okay, all right, I'll just note that.
Yep.
So there were a number from the minutes and from that lengthy discussion on the 2nd of April. KPIs were discussed, and it was promised by officers that they would be referred back to this committee with specifics, targets, and also sort of schedules and dates, because it was felt by the Scrutiny Committee. I mean, the other members of this committee made similar comments, but that doesn't seem to have been particularly addressed in this report. Good though this report is, and thank you for the update. So That's my first point. I'd just like to reiterate the point about Councillor Peacock's point about sports pitch investment, or pertinently lack of it, really. I think there's a budgetary problem. All the money seems to have gone into parks and playgrounds, and I don't think Glendale have got the money in their budget to do pitch drainage, particularly at East Court, which is in a chronic situation, as officers will know, like other sports pitches in the district. So I think there's a budgetary issue. So I'd like to know more about what's in their budget or not for sports pitch investment, and if it's not, that needs to be addressed, because sports is we have a sports pitch investment strategy. On Places for Leisure, I'd like to give them a big thank you from the King's Centre and East Grinstead. Fantastic job. Stuart Etherington did a great presentation in June to the Sports Council at the King's Leisure Centre. Fantastic presentation with him and his team, and the investments in the gym are I know by members are greatly appreciated, and also the pool classes I know are greatly oversubscribed. So fantastic success. So thank you for them. Thank you.
You never played on Mole Hill Stadium then, obviously.
Thank you, Councillor Whitaker. I'm going to go to Simon in the first instance, and you can share the response amongst yourself and your colleagues.
Thank you. So on your question regarding sports pitch investment, that is included within the contract, but the reason we've put in the recommendation to the committee today, recommendation A, is specifically about that climate adaptation strategy. So as I said in my introduction, and we can certainly provide you with more details of this, one of the big issues with green pitches, outdoor pitches, is the impact of heavy rain in the winter, which means that we can't get heavy plant on there to address any issues, because it causes so much, it basically causes damage to those surfaces. And then what we see is it drying very quickly, and then again our ability to do things like planting, etc., is limited. So what we want to do is work with Glendale and work with those governing bodies who are already starting to produce guidance, because it's not just an issue for ourselves, it's an issue for national clubs, etc., on what are the approaches to tackle that. So if I give you one example, if you put in, for example, drainage that tackles flooding in the winter, that can cause problems because you don't have water storage then later into the spring and also in the autumn. So how that's designed is critical. So that takes some planning, and that is why we've put it in recommendation A in this report. In terms of the Places Leisure, we'll feed back to them on your comments, and they'll be pleased to receive it. And I would just ask colleagues if there's anything you want to add to my response.
Thanks, Simon. Yeah, so just to follow up on the question around the green spaces KPIs, the commitment was to bring that back to a future committee, as Councillor Whitaker says, and that's on the work programme for March. So as part of that green spaces management contract review that's currently on the work programme for March, there'll be a comprehensive report around KPIs on that contract.
Jim, can I just thank you to the officers for that. Just come back, a comment I should have made. Can I just say that East Grinstead Town Council's comments about Glendale, the general grass cutting of the large areas of grass, are very, very good. Great improvement in the last couple of years. So trying to get my comments balanced. But the pitches, everybody knows there's a problem with the pitches, but the general service at East Court by Glendale is good. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd put my name forward just to ask a couple of questions as well here. And I do echo the comments from Councillor Whitaker that there's a lot of positive comments in the report. And I have to say, as a previous cabinet member for leisure, it's great to see that the contract, the numbers going back up, the income coming back in is really positive. And it's great to note the potential future investment plans for the remainder of the contract. As I look at the future investments, and I completely concur with what Councillor Whittaker says in terms of feedback on the gym investments in East Grinstead, King Centre being very positive, I still note there are, for example, say soft play cafe, those types of things in East Grinstead are not, I would say, at the standard of the other centres. And of course, there is the issue of the swimming pool in East Grinstead, just in terms of the lack of ability to dive, which will hamper the swimming club going forward. So I would, I think you're in discussions with Places for Leisure in terms of the long-term investment and sort of securing that down. I think it'd be good to know one way or the other whether there is any potential there, and if there is the opportunity for investment into King Centre, I think that would just be really helpful to show, so that residents across that Mid-Sussex community have got something to look forward to. As you know, we don't just want them to stand still; they have to. It's a very competitive market out there. So that would be my comments in respect to Places for Leisure. In respect of Glendale, I noticed the report highlights the fact that the first year was really to introduce the booking system, sort of try and embed the contract, etc. I know we're talking about reviewing Green Spaces strategy and vision in March. You won't be surprised because we've had some correspondence on it. We have had a club very close to my heart, which has had a very difficult summer and communication side. And I think it would be really helpful in advance of that meeting in March if maybe there's a survey done with clubs in terms of their perception, how they rate the comms. I think it's still a bit confusing as to how and who they're supposed to be communicating with and what expected response times might be in respect of those. And I just think it'd be a bit remiss if I didn't highlight those now, so that we're not coming at it a bit cold in March, sort of without that background. But I really, and I don't know whether that's an exceptional situation, but it would be very helpful, I think, just to get some feedback from the clubs themselves in advance of the KPI. So that'd be my comments.
Thank you. I'll ask Rob to pick up on the King Centre and then Joe on Glendale.
Thank you, Councillor Belsey. So, essentially, what you're saying about the King Centre in particular is absolutely right. You know, it's as Simon said, we've got some buildings there that are quite old now, and in some respects, we're having to sort of think creatively about how we can ensure that they continue to stay fresh and that they continue to be fit for purpose. You know, the guidance around swimming 18 months ago or so obviously was a good example of that, where a pool that was built and was suitable suddenly became unsuitable due to some governing body guidance. All of that sort of stuff is going to be key to that recommendation B around working with Places Leisure to develop a detailed asset management plan. Really, that's about making sure that the centres are fit for purpose over the coming years, that they're responding to our customer needs, that they continue to attract new members, but also actually to ensure that when it comes to 2035, it's an attractive portfolio of sites to actually go out to the market again with. So all of that is going to be in the mix when we carry out that asset review, and there'll be a clear programme of investment between now and 35 to ensure that all of that's in place.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think picking up on the Glendale query, specifically some of the communications and liaison interface that they have with sports clubs, so up and down the district. I think, as mentioned, obviously year one, we're kind of finding our feet. Year two, making the most of some of the changes that we've made in year one, so the online interface with Sports Key, bookings, streamlining some of that, using the information that we can get from that system. I think there are definitely adjustments that we can make to that interface that Glendale have with the sports clubs, and so they've committed to presenting proposals for any pitch improvements, making sure that that's kind of done in a bit more of a collaborative fashion than maybe it has been previously. Looking to establish some virtual meetings monthly to discuss some of the operational issues and any improvement strategies that can result from that, but also remaining available, and I think this is key, for any urgent queries or updates. And obviously what we don't necessarily want to do is kind of disrupt that. So if people are contacting us, we obviously always remain as a point of escalation to deal with any particular problems. But our main focus is focusing on that kind of holistic approach that we're taking via the Glendale contract, where as a liaison point with sports clubs, they will be best placed to remain that point of contact, because they are the people that ultimately will be resolving those operational issues. So I think, you know, we're still on a journey with that, but I think some of the measures that Glendale are introducing over the forthcoming season will massively improve the comms and the perception of the comms.
Thank you for that. And the particular reason for raising it is, you know, the people that we're dealing with here who are dealing with Glendale are volunteers themselves and have given a lot of energy and commitment to the clubs. And when they don't hear anything back and they're getting very frustrated, you know, it would be a shame to lose them and potentially even lose the clubs, because it's hard enough, isn't it, to devote the time and things. So I think it's worth us making that extra effort to make sure it works as quickly as possible. Thank you. Councillor Hitchcock.
I've got a question which is slightly outside this remit, but associated with it. 3 or 4 years ago, when I just joined the council, there was a report in circulation which was looking at demand against capacity in the district. And in the north of the county, it was assessed that there was a requirement for 3 3G pitches to meet the demand and some future demand. I would suggest that the demand now has gone up considerably. We now have 8 teams of female football in Crawley Down, and that's starting to mirror all round us, and we have run out of space where they can train and play. So my question is, are 3G pitches somewhere still on the agenda? And if so, where have we got to? I think that might be addressed to Robert.
I think this is one for Rob to deal with. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you. Yeah, so I think the report you're referring to is probably the playing pitch study, which was one of the documents that fed into the green spaces vision. And that really was where we were seeking to use all of the evidence that had been gathered through that study to inform a prioritisation in terms of spend. Absolutely, 3G pitches are still on our agenda, and the obvious example being the ARC in Burgess Hill, the Centre for Outdoor Sport, which comprises 2 new 3G pitches and will address a significant amount of the unmet demand in the south of the district and the wider region. I think the challenge always is funding, and so. The ARC is entirely Section 106 funded, and the Green Spaces vision is predicated on large amounts of Section 106 funding. And I think what we're looking to do with that vision is, number one, to inform our investment priorities, but number two, to help us when it comes to developers coming forward with proposals to direct any Section 106 funding to the right sources. So I think where we are probably with provision in the north is slightly behind where we are in the south, because we're currently in the process of using that evidence base to inform our asks of developers in a way that we perhaps didn't need to do from Homes England, where obviously we had a very significant development to enable us to bring that forward.
Yep, okay, thank you very much for that. The other thing I wish to say is that Crawley Down Village are very happy with Glendale.
Well, that's because I don't know who Crawley Down Village is. The whole everyone.
On their work day.
Yeah.
Councillor Henry, are you coming back?
Yes, I'm coming back. I mean, new questions. New questions. Number 20. I really am curious about how you can quantify, tell how much money, social value. 9.6 million. I do not know how you can possibly, what metric, what measurement you use to record it. I can appreciate what social value is, but how can you put a financial number on it? That's one question, Chairman, please.
Which I think Simon Hughes is going to.
I hope so.
Thank you, yes. What I'll do is I'll give you a brief answer now, but if you need more detail, then we can arrange to talk that through, because it's a significant area. Social value is measured financially. So when you do any kind of development, so it could be any kind of building, any kind of leisure facility. In fact, when I was involved in delivering the digital infrastructure, as part of that, you have to complete what's called a green book valuation, and that includes social value. So that will include things like how many suppliers there are that are local, so within 30 or 50 miles of the project you're delivering. It will and what is the value of the contract that you're delivering to them. It will include training for apprenticeships. It will include opportunities for those not in education, employment or training. It will include impact, depending on the project, it will include impact on health. There's a whole series of measures, and they're set out in the Public Services Act, and also more detail in the National Themes, Outcomes and Measures Framework, which is called TOMS. So I could talk to you for quite a long time about the measures that are used, but basically everything that is identified as social value has a metric associated with it, and then a financial value.
Okay, that helps clarify. Thank you very much. So, as Chairman, another question has to do with, well, I noticed that on number 16, we had a decline in membership. So what I'm curious about is concessionary members. This is a new question, concessionary membership. I would like to know about renewal of concessionary, because what's it like? Are they being renewed? Because this is where we're offering special value for certain clients. And I'm sorry to spring this on you, but I was just wondering about how many renewals there might be with concessionaries.
Obviously, if you don't have the answer, we can just.
Yeah, perhaps you can let me know. Yeah.
I think all I was going to confirm is that we do monitor.
I'm sorry, Joe, I cannot hear.
Okay. We do monitor the amount of members that drop off, and so we do have the figures on the members that continue to renew and remain members of the Leisure Centre. I don't have them available now, but we can get them.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, thank you. Two follow-up points, if I may. First of all, thank you to Simon for confirming the green pitches strategy will include water retention. And obviously, with the associated drainage, disturbance to the pitches themselves, it's going to need an implementation plan and could take some time. All I can say is, as Councillor Whittaker has said, I hope the budget's in place and we can do that as soon as possible with a roadmap. But thank you for that. Secondly, in terms of the comments around KPIs, we did discuss that in March. I said the residents I've dealt with are very happy with Glendale, but if you remember, the key issue was the communication process and trying to get a decision, either yay or nay, and the explanation for that decision. It was extremely complicated and long and frustrating. So, as the Chairman has said, and Councillor Whittaker, I would urge you, and I'm sure you will be, that get those KPIs done. And as I suggested at the March meeting, can we have a KPI on how specifically long it should take for a resident to reach a decision, and then when a decision is made, communicated, having a reason for the decision? Because from my experience, it wasn't actually the quality of service delivering it from what they told me, it was the communication and the decision process. And I know, obviously, The contract to Glendale took time to implement, it was complex, teething issues starting it off again after COVID and launching the new contract. But as we move forward, listening to Councillor Whittaker and the chairman, it does seem where communications are at fault, and that's my own experience. So, thank you.
Okay, I'll come to Simon.
Thank you. Yes, on your first point around green pitches and drainage and water retention and so on, we'll be doing that work. The recommendation identifies that we'll be doing that work to help inform our service planning for next year. So if we need to do any particular capital bids and so on, they'll be included within that. Or if we need to address any budgets within the contract, then we'll include it in that process. So that's the timeline. On KPIs, as Rob has said, we'll include that in the report that's coming here for March, and we've noted and certainly heard the comments around communication, and as Joe said, that's something we know we need to improve and work with Glendale on that, so we'll certainly be doing that and reporting back to you on that.
Thank you. I'm going to have a good debate on this. I'm going to make Councillor Whittaker our final speaker and then we'll move to recommendation.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's just coming back on a point that Councillor Hitchcock made about the 3G pitches, and I can give you an example. It's not just funding solely from 106 monies to fund. I mean, the average pitch costs sort of in the region of £750,000. A good example is that East Grinstead Rugby Club have got plans very well advanced for a 3G pitch to put on their training pitch, which is currently is dirt and in a terrible state. They've got provisional funding of £600,000 from, ironically, the Football Association. What they need is a letter from Mid Sussex District Council basically saying that they potentially will get some money from 106, even if it's, 50,000 or less. So, a very small percentage of the overall cost. And that is holding up the kind of project at the moment. But they're very advanced. They have had a meeting with our Section 106 officer, which I attended. It was very helpful. But the rugby club chairman, if that letter could be forthcoming, that project, we could see a new pitch with another 3G pitch within a year. So it's not just solely 106 100% funding. It's facilitating, greater facilities, in sports if it's possible through this council. Thank you.
Chairman, thank you. So if I'm correct, the East Grinstead Rugby Club pitch is a privately run facility, right? So and they've spoken to the Section 106 manager. I think the question really therefore is a planning one, and probably is best sat with the Section 106 manager, and I can certainly pick it up with him. But we can only obviously commit Section 106 funding to that project if there is Section 106 funding available to commit to it. So I think probably just need to understand. Yeah.
If we can find a way, just that letter,
Yeah.
to unlock potentially a really good project.
Yeah.
To pick up on Councillor Hitchcock's point.
So Chairman, yeah, I'll follow that up with the planning team.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. So members will be familiar with this work programme report. The work themes for this scrutiny committee are covered in paragraph 4, and the current proposed programme is set out in paragraph 12. Also, if I could refer you to Appendix A, and that's the scrutiny work programme request form, and that's to be completed and submitted to the chairman for consideration of any items you would want included on the scrutiny committee. That's all I have to say. Thank you, Chairman.
In the meantime, I had one councillor asking me about how we might review something like the Orchards shopping centre, etc. Would that be? I wasn't quite sure when I looked at the items whether that falls within this, as you could say it's economy and sustainability, or maybe estates. I don't know, but if that would go with us.
That would
Okay,
fit.
fine. So if we want to, we can put that forward as a specific request and get that onto the work programme. Any other questions or comments? Okay, none coming forward. Are we happy to? Oh, sorry. Councillor Bates, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't think you were coming back, but it just earlier discussion about the drop-off of people that were getting concessions, but I also noted on item 21 that there's an increase in exercise referrals, which is obviously the medics. And because when I go to the leisure centre, you see an awful lot of people and you think, oh, they're referrals. But so whether this is balanced up in terms of the concessions and they're now becoming referrals, I don't know. But it's a good sign that we're getting more people into the leisure centre to do something at least. And it's a growth in the referrals. And maybe there's a drop off on concessions.
Yes, that's okay.
Thank you. I know it relates to the previous item, but I can pick up the details of that with you and the impact of those referrals on the leisure centres. Right. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we've got the recommendations in front of us. We've got 3 recommendations to confirm the proposed work programme, note the alternative approaches and note the process to request further topics. And following this meeting, I will also, given I've had that conversation with fellow member, I will put forward the orchards as well. Are we happy to approve those recommendations, please, by hand? Thank you very much. Approved unanimously. Final item on the agenda, item 9, questions pursuant to Council Procedure Rule 10.2, due notice which has been given. We have none. So I'm going to close the meeting at 7:52 and thank everyone for their attendance. Thank you.
Thank you.